Today on the Failing Up podcast, we talk with Andy Peters, and he talks with us about goal setting and all about work-life balance. He emphasizes the importance of allowing others to lead, aligning actions with purpose, and expresses a little bit of regret about not getting into real estate earlier. Let's jump in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Failing Up podcast, humble lessons in life and business. I'm here with some amazing co-hosts. Dusty Oglesby, welcome, brother.
Hey, it's good to be here. We're in Texas.
We're in Texas. That's what I said. They put us next to each other.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even have a spacer now.
That's exactly right.
Good.
We're in Texas.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
105 today. 105 today.
105.
Yeah, cooling down.
I brought a change of clothes in my backpack. Just I figured about halfway through the day I was going to probably
You're going to need something else.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And our amazing co-host, Bethany Voice.
Glad to be here. I'm excited.
Thanks for joining us.
All the way in Austin.
All the way in Austin.
Super exciting.
Yeah. And then the amazing Andy Peters. Amanda.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can I call you Amanda?
I don't get amazing very often, and I definitely don't get Mandy very often. So.
Let's
when
try.
you put those together,
together.
I don't know if I'll ever call you anything else other than Amanda.
Amazing Amanda.
That's amazing and Andy
Together.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's
I'll
amazing.
take it.
All right,
I'll take
I'm gonna
it.
back up and redo it. And the amazing Andy Peters joining us all the way from Georgia,
Yeah,
Savannah,
all over Georgia.
Savannah now, Atlanta,
Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. Like
and then y'all got a space. Where's that beautiful beach house y'all did?
we've got a beach house down in St. George Island, Florida.
I think about y'all all the time.
Yeah.
Have you been to 30A recently?
We have.
You and the rest of planet Earth.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Every time I go, the rest of planet Earth goes.
I love 30A. This is definitely a little bit quieter than that.
I've told like 10 people about you lately because we were just down there, and I'm like, buddy Andy says like the island over there is a lot quieter, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we should go check it out. So, but then I'm worried I'm going to bring everybody with me, and you're going to be mad at
Well,
me.
that's just it. Yeah,
Stay away.
It's supposed to be a
Just tell them to
secret.
stay away.
Yeah.
Well played putting
It's
that on
all right.
the podcast.
Yeah,
You
it's
probably
not worth
wouldn't like
visiting.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Really big mosquitoes.
Terrible. Yeah.
All right. So talking about failure, Andy, well, take a second, introduce yourself. Let our amazing guests know who you are.
Sure. My name is Andy Peters. I am a Georgian through and through. All my family is from Southwest Georgia. I grew up in Middle Georgia and then moved to Atlanta, Georgia for high school. Spent 30 years in Atlanta. Went off to Furman University, Greenville, South Carolina, go Paladins, and met my beautiful wife, Leslie. Spent about 7 or 8 years working with my dad in a family drinking water business. And then my wife pulled me into this wonderful world of real estate in 2008, which seemed like a great time to get in.
Yeah.
Right. Ideal.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It was. We actually tried to book your wife and she wasn't available. So that's why you were
That's pretty common.
kidding. Totally kidding.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're an amazing human, right? I look up to you, especially in the leadership world and within our roles as OPs. I got a 11-year-old who now swears he's going to the University of Georgia.
Oh,
And I'm
nice. Good
like, I mean,
dogs.
they win like some football games. And all of a sudden, now, Alice Maxwell is convinced she's going to convince him to
Go to Alabama, of course.
But since he's like 4 years old, ever since you say Alabama and he goes, Alabama sucks.
Oh, no.
That's just all he knows. So I was teasing him about
That's
it.
funny.
And so we were in Alabama on our way to Florida. We took him to a water park, and he's still like, every time somebody go Alabama, he go, "Roll Tide," and he's saying like this real country drawl.
Oh,
like
you got to do it.
Supposed to be
Does
fishing.
it come
or
from
something.
Alice? Is because he's been around
I
Alice?
guess he hasn't, but I told him we were going to take him down to
Yeah.
the Tennessee Alabama game.
Yeah.
So now he's convinced.
yeah.
Oh, come
what
on.
What an
They're super
experience.
fun.
But the other day, he's like, "No, going to Georgia." He's sold. I'm going to Georgia. I'm like, "All right." So it's football season, so he's all in football right
It's
now.
a good year for them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They've
exciting.
had an okay time
Oh, yeah.
lately, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This is much better than the early days. I would say mid 80s to early 2000s being a Dogs fan. It was full of a lot of heartbreak.
Well, I tried to tell him. I'm like, "Look, you haven't experienced a winning Tennessee team.
Yeah.
So, like, don't rule Tennessee out yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're
Yeah.
about to,
Yeah.
like
that
last
color
season.
becomes a lot cooler.
I was
when they
gonna
win.
That's right. Last season was the first time. all of
We
a
have
sudden
like
I'm
no
hang
winning
on.
teams in Texas, period. So I don't even know what, I mean,
It's been a minute.
I apologize, Austin, but maybe this is the year, right?
Maybe it's it.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen it since Vince Young. Maybe this is the
There
year.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, man, this is, we like to talk about, I don't know if we'd like to talk about, but focus on failure here. We know there's a lot of podcasts out there celebrating successes and wins and what people do really, really well. want to take a different approach and just be transparent as leaders with people about what failure looks like, how different people choose to navigate it in their life and in their business. So let's start with that. When you think of failure, how do you define that? What does that look like?
Well, failure does take a lot of different looks in your life. Failure, ultimately, I would say, is whenever you don't get the things that you want, whatever that might be. I think that happens for us every single day, whether I want to be, 165 pounds and ripped, which that's not going to happen.
You're getting there.
Right. I am getting there. Thank you for noticing. Or whether that's I want to go out and have quick success in my business. We have to fail our way there. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's a hard lesson to learn. And, the old Rome wasn't built in a day certainly applies. Making progress, though, on goals is the only thing that, we can stay focused on, not the success, but progress. What kind of progress are we making?
Do you find, I love that definition. One of the things I've struggled with in the last maybe 2 years is what I think I want changes.
Oh, yeah.
And so not getting what you want is failure. But then sometimes when you get there, you realize it's different than what you thought it was going to be in a certain aspect. And so then you have to rewrite it. I mean, it's this evolution of, do you consider that failure, right? If you get somewhere and then you look up and go like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was.
Well, yeah, it's just this constant kind of recalibration around, are the important things still the important things? Mm-hmm. Do I really, I actually just delivered some content to some of our agents just a month or so ago. It was middle of the year, right? And we were thinking about, okay, we're reevaluating, and where are you? And so many times I think we beat ourselves up around like we said we wanted this, and now all of a sudden that's not important. And probably like the most unmotivating thing in the world is chasing a goal that doesn't mean anything to you anymore. Right. So, certainly tools like the 411 or, I've got just a simple drill that I use when I get a new planner or a new journal. I'll write, just ad hoc, like what are all the things that I want, right? And I don't think about anything but just free flowing thoughts, just write them. And then I'll go and I'll assign a 1, a 3, a 5, or a 10 to them. And those are how many years I would give myself to achieve that. Mm. And funny how, so many of the ones you never attempt or you never get there. And then you look at the 5s and the 10s and you're like, dadgummit, I did that in a freaking year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but then some of those things, that you said were important, by the time you get a next journal and you start writing, doing the same exercise again, those things don't show up anymore, which is kind of an interesting exercise to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I want to try that. Do you think the important things are universal, right? Is it, family, faith, physical? Is it the buckets, right, that we fill? Or are they unique to each other?
Yeah, no, I think they are kind of universal. I went through, Leslie and I went through kind of a unique experience over the last couple of years where we did this. Like we were reevaluating the things that we wanted in our life. And it was funny because it started with my kids one day came downstairs. Leslie and I were outside on the back porch having a glass of wine. We have a glass of wine every once in a while, Dusty. Don't judge me.
That's every once in a while.
Yeah,
like,
every once in a while.
Throughout the day.
This was one evening, and we were having a couple glasses of wine.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's like 8:30, and both the kids come down, which is odd in and of itself. And they're like, "Hey, can we talk to you guys?" And we weren't sure if there was like an intervention that was about to take place.
Right.
Did you cover the
What?
body up when you were done?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do we need to make a call?
Exactly.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
attorney be a part of this guy?
Yeah. And we asked like, "Is everything okay?" And they said, "Yeah, everything's fine. We feel like we're ready to leave. Like we're ready to move outside of Atlanta." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, we can move to Roswell or Alpharetta. Like we can move into the suburban Atlanta market. We've been talking about that anyway." And they're like, "No, that's not really what we had in mind." And it just led us down this path of, when you're at that time, you're 12-year-old and you're 14-year-old are telling you that they want to move. Like when I was 14 years old, my parents moved me and I thought my life was going to end.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so it was a big wake up call, when I think about, and this does play back into this idea of failures, like we have successful businesses in Atlanta. We love Atlanta. I've been there 30 years. Raised my family there, and then your kids come up and say they want to go, you better listen. So it started this kind of period of discernment for us around like, okay, well, if we were going to move, where would we go? What would we do? And
well, what an amazing, you've told me this and you say it so nonchalantly. And yet I think about like, that's what makes you and Leslie so amazing is that you guys listen to them and act like 99 out of 100 parents to me would have blown that off, right? Would have said like, yeah, no, we're not doing that, right?
we blew
I think
it
it's
off.
even more than that though, because the fact that this is the first time I'm hearing this story, and the fact that they came to you at that age, right? Like I know so many kids who don't have that environment to feel like they could walk downstairs and say,
That's right.
this is what we're thinking, right? And then for that to be validated and heard and seen, like what an amazing environment you're creating.
We did blow it off for a few months. And
Like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Should our 12 and 14-year-old
Exactly.
Dictate.
Yeah.
Right?
call? But then, Andy, you were talking to me out here, though, and I loved the way that you said it when you talked about how you and Leslie figured this out, which I think everybody should hear. You talked about, like, getting to a place where you could, how did you say it around, that you lived where you would want a vacation.
Oh, yeah. So
and you would go into it.
yeah, once you kind of came to grips with, okay, the kids want to move, and my son was holding me highly accountable, like on a weekly basis. Dad, what locales have you found?
What have you done?
What are you?
This
what
was
are you
not
thinking?
a one-time thing.
No,
here, Dad.
no.
Yeah.
No, and I started working. Actually, Leslie had worked with an NLP coach, neuro-linguistic programming coach, Dr. John Ryan, who's fantastic. He was recommended by several agents. And she just had this really transformative experience with him. And, it was about the same time. And Leslie's like, I think you should do it. And I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know that I need another coach in my life right now.
Yeah.
And I decided to do it, and it was getting clear on those values. It was getting clear on what are you building? What does legacy look like? Which has always been one of my favorite words and one of the words that we use in our group. And one of the things that I came to was, what would it look like to live on vacation and go visit work instead of go live at work and visit vacation? And, the whole world had changed in those 3 years leading up to the 2 or 3 years leading up to that. And the reality was we really could go anywhere. We really could do anything. We have tremendous leaders in our organization, people that, want to lead. And so I really felt like it was a time where we could do that comfortably, and we could readjust some priorities. So yeah, that idea of living on vacation, now not literally, right? Like,
Sure.
But it still was the idea that I could go and I love to fish. Like if I'm in between calls, I can go throw a fishing rod. Or if it's, 5 o'clock, I can go and pick up a golf club and, go to the driving range for a little bit. Little things like that were kind of more valuable or more important to me now because I could see they're more important to my kids.
Well, and I think it's even taking it as maybe not as far as actually relocating physically, but there is a mindset that from your experience there that I try to lean into. I find myself sometimes at the beach making a few phone calls for work,
Sure,
right? And or hopping on a Zoom and leading a conversation. I think for me, in an effort to stay more connected with my family rather than trying to separate work and family, I've tried to say like, hey, this is just who we are as a unit. And I get to spend more time with them because I include them on it. And I try to keep a healthy balance. I don't want to work all the time. But I looked up at the beach and I'm like, well, I'm doing similar things as what I would do when I'm at home. And so it's just a mindset shift when I'm at home to go, why can't I think about today like I'm off work? I just have to pick up and do certain things throughout the day. Just like I would at the beach. If I'm at the beach, I'm on vacation, right? But there's certain things throughout the day that I'm going to have to go in. I'm going to have to take a phone call. I'm going to have to do a Zoom, something like that. you can have that same mind, and it's just a mindset shift.
Totally.
Right? For when I'm sitting in, Lebanon, Tennessee or Nashville, and being able to just kind of go like, you know what, today I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the gym, the sun's out, this is my day. I'm going to work throughout the day, but because it's not really different. Other days I get up and I go, I got a full day today. I got to work, right? And it's funner, right? To imagine you're on vacation.
Yeah, our kids, when we're training, we're blessed to do some traveling and training, and our kids go with us.
Yeah.
This summer we went to Orlando and stayed at Universal while we taught a class. They were, pounding the theme park. We just got back from Boston this summer. We went over there and taught for a little bit, and we saw 2 concerts at Fenway Park.
We were setting up for that concert when I was up there.
Yeah.
I was there the day before, and they were building, and I saw y'all were there the next night.
Yeah, the country music. We saw Kane Brown. Yeah. Saw Kane Brown, and then the next day, Dead and Company was playing, and John Morgan was like, Dad, is Dead and Company like the Grateful Dead? And I was like, yes, son, it is. And he's like, I would go if you want to go. And of course, Leslie and Beta didn't care anything about it, but here we go. I was like, now, son, you're going to see a lot of things here that you probably shouldn't see.
Let me explain this before we go in.
Exactly. Right. It was a cultural moment. And we had a blast. We had a blast.
I think that's awesome. So, speaking of Boston, it's funny, it's such a small world. Ran into one of my college roommates standing on the corner of the street in Boston. And I look up and I'm like, you think you're on like a TV show, right? Like you're being pranked. And then we're at the airport and somebody walks up and they're like, y'all are from Nashville, right? And I'm like, yeah. Right. And my son had a Huffacre shirt on. He's like, I know Dana and Randy.
Oh, cool.
Out of Mount Juliet or whatever. So, and then I saw y'all were there the day. So small world there.
No doubt.
So I love that story, right? As you guys are being intentional with your kids. In the past few years, where have you seen, so think about a time where like you've experienced failure in the last few years, and it might have been a little painful or disruptive. But now looking back, you can clearly see the path it set you on, right? That probably led to some great things.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have an example like that? Because I want to make sure our listeners can, if they're going through something hard right now, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel that you can look back. I can always look back and almost with perfect grace see his hand in every tough experience that I've gone through. Yeah. But you can only see it backwards, right?
That's right.
Hindsight's 20/20. You got anything like that?
Yeah. So 2021, I think it was the fall of 21, we were kind of losing steam on the team. The team was still doing great. I mean, it was still a $1 million team. But you could tell our passions were waning for what we were doing. And the market center side of our life had picked up, and it was a little bit more exciting. And Les and I went to dinner one night right before a big client event that we had. And we knew things were a little bit shaky. We knew some people maybe weren't as happy on our team. And that was, some of that was our fault, right? We acknowledged that. And I remember telling Leslie, I was like, if this team was to dismantle, like if people were to leave, I'm not sure I would build it back. And literally the next day at this event, we had this client event, and 4 of our salespeople walked out on us. They came up to us and they said, we're going and starting our own team. And, that's fine. I mean, I encourage entrepreneurship. The timing maybe not so much, but
never feels good in the moment.
It doesn't. And, Leslie and I looked at each other, and we had 2 brand new agents. She and I had not been in production for quite some time, and we had a choice, and it was hard. And we decided, okay, we don't have enough information right now to really fold. We need to keep going. And so we made a decision. She and I, we jumped back in, and we basically constructed another $1 million team in a year. Wow. And it was just sheer will and determination and pride, really. Yeah. And then once we kind of made it through that, and this was in the transition point for us moving from Atlanta to Savannah, it was obvious we weren't going to be able to be boots on the ground and run that team the way it needed to be ran. So we started looking for partners. And in our lives, at least on the Market Center side, the way we've been successful is through partnering with people.
Right.
And so why would we think that we need to, on our own sales team, just be us?
Right.
So we started looking for a CEO. We never found one. Another good friend of mine, David Lewis, who was a territory leader for Livian, which was just coming on the scene and starting to gain some traction. He was like, look, I understand your problem and I'm happy to take over the team. And so we started thinking about the team as not the business, but a business. Mm-hmm. And that was a transformative moment because we then started not only trusting others more with that business, but we started seeing different levels of success. Like some of our problems that we struggled with, somebody else was really good at them or liked them. Mm-hmm. And so that was a tough moment. As that team, I mean, we'd had that team we started building that team in 2010-ish. So, and it's 11 straight years of MREA status.
Wow.
Oh,
it's a great team.
Yeah.
It is a great team. And it was, you don't want to see your baby die, but at the same point, like I think we had to be real honest with ourselves of how much time can we invest in this and what is that return and would our time and talents be better invested in other ways?
Right.
So that was a really, really tough moment, obviously with a lot of our geographical changes that were going on at that time too, and kids getting involved in new schools and all of that.
From the outside looking in, right? Like I watched that evolution happen. I didn't know about the story there, but it's interesting to me. I've always respected you guys. We run in parallel lines, right? Both as team owners, as OPs, as platform partners, as things like that. And I always think you guys are the A+ version of excellence, right? When it comes to a lot of these things, you guys kind of set the gold standard for how to approach it. To me, it's always been about finding an opportunity and then finding an amazing human that can own that opportunity. And I think with most leadership, right, it is about not how well can I do this? Because if you do that, you're going to create this natural ceiling. Mm-hmm. And it boxes you in, like it has to all your time and focus and energy. Versus when I look at like level 8, for instance, it was our leadership team from the Huffaker group. When Gary said, go out and duplicate what you're really, really good at, I thought like, man, like I don't have that thing, right? Because we're just, we're good at a lot of stuff, but like what's the young lady out of Florida that does the staging?
The style design.
Yeah. I mean, like right there is a beautiful niche of something she was solid at, put it together. But then I looked up and I thought, well, I don't have like a thing, but I have a Bethany and a Phil and a Dana and a Lauren and a Larna. And I go like, well, we have an amazing leadership team. Can we go out and share that with the ecosystem? Mm-hmm. Which then went from them being, you guys were employees to now CEOs of companies, and realizing that like when you put the right people in the right place and get out of their way, they're so much better at it than we are.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, I love being the sounding board, right? But the beauty is, allowing them the space to fail, allowing them the space to self-discover what they like, that they have strengths. You're right. Like my weaknesses are a lot of their strengths.
Yeah.
Right. So good for you for recognizing and really, again, just taking the initiative to be willing to do it. I love y'all's story about partnering with Living, because I think that a platform can really serve people in a way. Most of our platform partners at level 8 are not just, in the space, typical teams, right? They're either trying to transition their team to another person, or they're in some situation like you guys, to where that becomes, we call it leverage, right?
Yeah.
The chance to step in and be, say when someone partners with us, they get a director of lead generation day one, right? They get a director of ops, all those things that take time to build. Okay, shifting gears. Got anything?
Well, I would just say I think it's important for everybody to hear, Andy, when you talked about, you had 4 people walk out, right, the day of an event, how easy it would have been, because you guys already even had the thought the night before, hey, I don't know, like literally you had said to your bride the night before, hey, if this were to happen, I don't know if I would do this again. And I think the key in all of this podcast is everybody that we've have on has a story like this. You know, what we do in our humanity is we compare everything to everybody else, right? And so you hear MREA status 11 years, and a lot of people go, whoa. Well, the huge reason behind that is when you have moments like this of failing, you go, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? And you guys then in that instance stepped back in because that was the season of growth. Like what I heard in your story is the seasons of growth, right? You guys knew we have to step back in at this time, but then you had the wherewithal to know now we need to step away. And that's a huge piece that I think a lot of people miss because our pride, we talked about this out there, right? We have to take a look at our own self and go, all right, am I where I'm at and doing what I'm doing because I like how this feels? And yet the only way I can go to the next level is to get out of my own way. And you know, I mean, the way you were able to do the things that you guys are doing today is you did make the moves and you did create the leverage and you did put people in the right spots. They could do it at a whole nother level. So then there was a whole nother season of growth that actually was because the first one was you stepped in, the second one was you stepped out.
Right. Do you love it? Are you where you want to be right now with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the question I would encourage people to ask themselves is like, Gary said a few years ago, right? Like we talked about it with Stevie D, right? Like managing up or hiring up or not always being the top of the org chart, right? Like being okay with that. And I think like for me, like I have to sit down and go like, okay, I'm going to breathe through this, right? Because just wanting to have control, right? Or some of it ego, right? Or just being used to being the person in charge, right? Like how do you digest the fact that you're not going to get to make all the decisions?
Yeah. For me, like I kind of went back to the mission for my life. Like I got really clear on this probably 6 or 7 years ago. You know, my mission is to create massive opportunities for others through real estate. And the more I got embedded back into that role, it prohibited me from going and living that mission.
That's right.
And so, you know, once I released that, we just got right back into what we were doing. In fact, there was a little bit of a breakthrough moment where we created more opportunities because in the last, you know, and shout out to one of our business partners, Aubrey Bailey, because he's been, you know, tremendous in helping us grow some of these opportunities. But we've created 9 LLCs in the last 9 months. So
that's incredible.
That's I say I like where I am because I'm living the mission that I set forth, right? That I got clarity around. And, you know, I think we all have to look internally and say like, if we're really drinking the truth serum, is this it? You know, is this what I want to be doing?
Well, I find it so stressful when I get out. Like I want to get up and serve my leaders every day. I'm happy in that space, right? I'm low stress. I know I've got the capability to do it. I get stress and anxiety when I get out of that, right? When I start focusing on the day-to-day, when I start worrying about the outcome, when I start trying to control everything. And sometimes you have to like breathe and, you know, reset and kind of remind yourself like, okay, like if I just get up and go help all of these people,
everything will work out.
Yeah. It all ripples out, right?
Yeah. Well, you're in alignment, right? And I think that's one of the questions we always ask. 2 questions we ask in the purpose room is who you're being and what you're doing in alignment with your purpose, right? With your mission. And if it's not, then like this is your life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how's Gary
QL
saying?
moment.
Yeah, that's right. Gary says, pick a direction, start marching down that path. If you realize you don't like it or you don't want it, well, you get to change it. Right. This is your life, right? I think at some point, right, we've got to recognize it's going after what we want. That is a good thing. So, and then what does that look like?
I used to love that. And I can't even place where I heard it, but it was the statement of the good news is it's your life, it's your decision. And the bad news is it's your life and it's your decision, right. You know? And right. You get to decide which side of the coin you end up on, right? Yeah. Which can be all the ownership and all the responsibility and then also all the freedom to just go and make it what you want.
Andy, brother, mad respect for you. You are one of the handful of people that I hold up as the gold standard for how to be a leader, how to be a human, how to be good to others in your leadership, right? And do it with a humble heart and a servant's heart. As we wrap up, we'd like to ask everyone, as you're thinking into your life, right? You're looking back and you're proud of all that you've accomplished. What do you anticipate, or what do you think could be one of your biggest regrets?
One of my biggest regrets. I wish that I had gotten into real estate sooner. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like I really don't look at things from a regretful heart. Like I do look at it in terms of what did these moments, or what are the lessons involved in this? So that sounds somewhat cliche, but I don't have a lot of regrets. I'm very thankful that I get to work with my spouse. I'm very thankful that we, are able to build a life together, both personally and business. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wish that had happened sooner. I think that those 7 years that I did learn lessons working for my family business. They taught me how to have a better family business now. But I would have liked to have benefited from some of that real estate market from 2000 to 2007 for sure. That would have been really, really good.
Yeah. Well, and you got here now. And that's one of the reasons we'd love to ask that question, is because I think for most people, even through the failures and the struggles, we're in control of the end, right? We're in control of what's going to happen now. Living with regret has no purpose. But if for those of you listening, if you can ask yourself that question and think about, is there something that deep down I'm anticipating could be a concern for me? Like, let's go address that now, right? Like, let's make that a priority in our life to go out, because we want to look back and know that we left it all out on the field, right? What is it? Well done, my good and faithful servant, right? That we show up and go, I used every ounce of skill and talent that you gave me, hopefully in an effort to look up and say that we did it in a way that glorified God and drew someone closer in a connection with their spiritual journey. And so if you're listening and that's a priority for you, please share this podcast with others. We hope that you'll like it and share it out. Share these videos out on YouTube. The amazing Andy Peters. I know people will just go crazy to see you. What did I say? Amandy?
Amandy.
Amandy. I'm not going to be able to give you a nickname if I can't remember.
I think it was Amandy.
Well, thanks for you guys. Y'all have been great leaders and amazing visionaries. I love what you guys are doing. Don't stop, just keep going, just keep building. What you've got right now is just the beginning.
There you go, Bethany.
Got it.
Orders.
Words.
Come on.
Love it.
All right. Thanks.
Go.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Andy.